Hi everyone, welcome to this video on lesson 10 of the human body part 2 scheme of work. This lesson is on herd immunity. The way I illustrate this is just to imagine a classroom full of students. So I imagine that this box represents a class full of students, and I mean they're sat in a slightly weird arrangement, aren't they? Yeah, no rows or anything like that, but anyway. Hopefully this illustrates the idea. And what I want to show here, and again, I'm using an example that I drew actually live with a class earlier this year. What I would say is this one is one that it really helps if you draw this out live and show this process. But let's imagine one of those students in this class is infected. And I've just forgotten a really important point. Sorry. Before you get to the pathogen, what you want to show is that actually, most of the students in this class are immune to a disease. So let's say it's chickenpox. That's a good example. Many of the students will have had chickenpox before, and you can ask them about that experience, give them something concrete that they can relate these ideas to, and say, okay, 20 of the 25 students in this class have had chickenpox before, and they are therefore immune. And you can use that to revisit this idea of immunity that you covered in the last lesson on vaccines. Talk about the fact that, okay, they remember they've got memory cells or white blood cells that remember the specific shape of antibodies to bind to the antigens of the chickenpox virus. But anyway, 20 out of 25 of the students are immune. So let's imagine now this student over here becomes infected and they get symptoms. Well, what happens is, in this game, we imagine they can only transmit it to people who are sat next to them. So either next to them or in front of them, behind them or diagonal. So they try and infect this person, but this person is immune. So it's not going to go any further. They try and infect this person's not immune. So they are going to get sick. This person is immune, so it's not going to go any further. And that's it. We can see that this person who becomes infected, well, they're going to try and infect all of these other people. I say try, that's maybe the wrong word, but they're in danger of infecting all the other people that are around them, but because all of those people are immune, actually the disease doesn't spread any further. And you can point out to the students that these three students here, 1, 2, 3, they're not immune to chickenpox. But even though one member of their class got it, they still didn't develop symptoms, they didn't get sick. So I'm going to show here that only 2 out of 25 develop symptoms, and you can probably see the punchline that's coming. The way we get to that punchline, and that only comes at the very end here, is by showing another example. So let's imagine we've got a situation, and again, this is kind of hard to see after the fact. So what I would do is, again, building this up from first principles. Firstly, draw your 25 dots, but this time only shade 5 of them to show that only 5 of the students are immune in this case. And let's imagine this time that one of the students gets infected. Now you can show here that because not that many of them are immune, you're not going to get this situation here where the disease can't spread any further. Actually, what happens here is that every single person who wasn't previously immune is infected. So if only 20% are immune, then 20 out of 25 will develop the symptoms. And what you want to show here is not that herd immunity means a disease can't spread. That's not what herd immunity is. This person still got sick because this person was infected and then passed on the pathogen. So it's not that herd immunity eradicates a disease altogether. All that it means is the disease spreads a lot more slowly. And we can all think back to 2020 when the government was talking about herd immunity, or certain members of the government were talking about letting it rip and not worrying too much. Hopefully this will give students an explanation of why that is. So that's a really important point here, is that it's not that it eradicates the disease, it just stops it spreading quickly, it makes it spread more slowly. What you'll see in this lesson is you want to get across this idea of herd immunity and the difference between these two cases. It's also a good opportunity to revisit the idea of immunity in the first place, and this idea that if you're immune, the pathogen is rendered harmless and you can't pass it on any further. It's also a good opportunity to have a bit of a public health conversation about vaccines and why MMR vaccine and things like that are so important in stopping diseases from spreading.